Hi, this is Kim from KimberlyKoehler.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make a wire wrap loop chain bracelet. This is a chain I made up myself and it's a little bit fun and funky. I'm actually wearing a necklace. I'm not sure what you can see from there, but you'll see it soon enough. And I wanted to make a bracelet, so I'm going to show it with you. I actually have shown this technique previously in one of my videos a few months ago, and I just wanted to revisit it, show it to you again, and show you it being used as a bracelet. And then next week I'm actually going to do another bracelet video that uses the wire wrap loop chain in it, so you can actually see how to kind of coordinate it with other techniques to make really cool jewelry. So let's get started. So here are the materials and tools you'll need to make this bracelet. So you will need 20 gauge half hard round wire. I am using 20 gauge silver plated silver parawire, which is my preferred wire of choice. You can use whatever wire you like. You will also need some sort of clasp. I'm using a Lobster Clasp. And you'll need a couple jump rings just to attach the clasp to the bracelet. And then the tools you'll need are round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, bent nose pliers, so they're the pliers that are bent, and then wire cutters. And also you're going to need a ruler and a Sharpie. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to use your Sharpie and make a mark on your round nose pliers. Mine is right about here. And it doesn't really matter so much where this mark is on your pliers. About halfway on a regular pair of round nose pliers is fine. It's just a mark so we can line up our wire when we're making loops throughout the bracelet, so all the loops are a uniform size. So make a little mark and then kind of let it dry for a little bit, and then you're ready to move on. You can really kind of production line this chain, so you can do one of the steps several times and then move on to the next step, etc. I'm going to show you kind of the basic technique, and then you can just keep adding to it. And if you want to do a lot of steps at the same time, you can, or you can just kind of make each kind of link as you go. And so the first thing you're going to want to do is cut a piece of wire 3 inches long. So that's why I have my ruler here. And the end of my chain is a little funky, so I'm just going to cut it. Put that to the side. So, and then just cut a piece of wire 3 inches long. I have my 3-inch wire, and these are my round nose pliers. And approximately 1 inch from the top, I am holding the wire with these round nose pliers. And then vertically, the wire is lined up with the mark I just made on my pliers. And then we're just going to wrap around the pliers to make a loop. And it looks something like this. And now we're going to grab that loop with our chain nose pliers. So these are flat on the inside, no teeth. Hold the loop in your chain nose pliers. And then I'm going to wrap around once, and while I'm wrapping, I just pull the long wire out straight. So now that wire is centered, or the loop is centered in the middle of the long wire. And then I'm just switching hands, and then you can just wrap around 2 more times. I'm using my bent nose pliers to help me here. Oops. I'm just going to go around 2 more times. So there'll be 3 wraps. So there we have that. And now with our wire cutters, we're going to trim off the excess, making a flush cut. So using the back of your wire cutters toward the work, the back, the kind of flat side, and we just trim off the excess. And then I'm just coming back with my chain nose pliers. I'm just squeezing together the wraps to make sure they're all tightly wrapped against each other. You can just do that by using your chain nose pliers and squeezing. And then I want to make sure that end is not poking out, and that's important because this is going to be chain. There's going to be a lot of these. So basically you can just hold your wire, the loop, the wraps you just made in your chain nose pliers and continue around with your chain nose pliers. You just kind of like this, and then just bring your finger across and see if you can feel it poking up. If you can, you may need to do the chain nose pliers trick again, or you might need to come in with your wire cutters and just trim it a little bit closer. Make sure it's a flush cut. Again, the back toward the work. It makes a straight cut. If you do it the other way, it makes a pinch cut and it's pokey. So that is one side. And now we're basically going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're going to need our ruler again. And I'm going to measure. An inch. So I'm starting where the wraps are. I'm measuring an inch. It's kind of a little bit awkward to do on the camera. And I'm just holding the wire. So we're just going to do what we just did again, but on the other side. So the loops down here that we just made, we measured an inch. We have the wire lined up with the mark we made on our round nose pliers, and we're going to wrap around, forming a loop. Grab our chain nose pliers, go around once, pull this out straight so the loop is straight above the wire, and we're going to flip, and then you can just use your bent nose pliers to complete the wrap. Again, I'm just trimming off the excess with my wire cutters, and then using my chain nose pliers to make sure that end is not poking out. So that is one link. And so basically we're just going to keep repeating this to create a chain. So let me show you the next link. And so basically we're going to interconnect them. You could just make a bunch of these and then connect them with jump rings, but I prefer not. So I'm going to cut another piece of wire, 3 inches long. And this is something you could do all at once. You could just cut a bunch of wires to 3 inches long, and then you could do one side of the loop on all of them, and then you can start attaching them. So I just did that without saying much, but basically we're doing exactly what we just did. This is how we're starting. I was holding the wire about 1 inch from the top and my round nose pliers lined up with the line that we made, and I formed a loop. Now before we move on, I'm just going to slide the first link in that loop so they're connected, and then basically you just hold that off to the side and continue on like it's not even there. So we go around once, straighten out the loop so it's centered, continue the wraps, I'm just squeezing the wraps together. This I didn't quite get wrapped around, so I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers to kind of fix that. And then trim off the excess, making a flush cut. And make sure that's tucked in. And then basically you finish the other side like I just showed you on the first one, and then you just keep repeating until the chain is long enough for your wrist. So how do you know when it's long enough for your wrist? You can just kind of, as you do it, measure around, check, see if you need to make another link or not. When it gets close, if it doesn't quite work out, these links end up being about 1 inch each. So say your wrist is 6.5 inches, it may not work out perfectly. In that case, just do it so it's 6 inches, and then add some extra jump rings and you'll be fine. You also want to take into consideration the length of your clasp. Another way you could do this is to take a bracelet you already have and you like the way it fits, measure it, subtract out how long the clasp is, and the jump rings to add the clasp, and that's how long you should make your bracelet. So however you want to do that, or you can measure around your wrist with a piece of yarn or something and get to the number that way. So continue on until you have the length that you want it to be. I have my chain all done for my bracelet. So now we just need to add a clasp, and I just want to say I checked it around my wrist and I made sure it fit correctly, and it does. So we're just going to add a clasp to the end, and then you may or may not want to put a jump ring on the other side to hook your clasp into. You could certainly just hook it into this loop at the end if it's going to fit you more correctly. So to open up a jump ring, you need 2 pair of pliers. I'm using bent nose pliers and chain nose pliers. And then you need to find the little slot, the little slit in the jump ring. And you could just run, I was just running my finger over until I found it. Now of course I've dropped it, so try again. And then you're just going to line up your pliers on either side of the little slit. And just, you can use any pliers you like as long as they are flat on the inside. So you don't want to use round nose pliers, and you don't want to use serrated pliers, like anything that has teeth in it. And you're just going to open the jump ring. So to open it, you pull 1 pair of pliers toward you and 1 away from you, or you could just hold 1 solid while you do the other. You do not want to pull out. You want to maintain the circularness of the jump ring. And then I'm just going to put the end of my bracelet in here, and then my lobster clasp. You can use whatever clasp you like. I like a lobster clasp. And then to close it, you do the same thing, just kind of backwards. So I'm still holding both my pliers, and then I'm just taking one and moving back, and I'm kind of going back and forth. And then you're going to either hear or feel a click when the jump ring kind of matches right up. And it kind of stiffens the jump ring if you kind of go back and forth a little bit. So you have that, and then you can just hook into the other loop on the other side, or, I mean, try on your bracelet around your wrist and see how it fits. Sorry, this is kind of awkward. And if you want to add a jump ring on the other side, or if you need to add a few on the other side to kind of make it the right fit, you can do that. I am going to add a jump ring. I need just a little bit more room. now I can hook my clasp into the jump ring to close it. And so we have this really simple, kind of dainty bracelet. Certainly you could wear this bracelet on its own and it would be fine, but I plan to kind of use it in a whole stack of bracelets. And next week, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to do another bracelet tutorial using this technique, plus adding a technique, and then you could actually stack them together and it would make a really cute look. So I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did and you want to learn even more about wire wrapping, check out my wire wrapping for beginners e-course. It's full of all kinds of jewelry findings like head pins and clasps, a different kind of chain. You're going to learn different components. Like, I can't even list them here. You can go check it out if you are interested. And then I give you recipes to use these components together to create projects. So you get lots of earring, necklace, bracelet, and wire wrapped ring tutorials. So learn all about it over at the link below this video, the wire wrapping for beginners e-course. And I will see you next week.